The location and geography insights can be pretty cool when we start to put a couple of alternative versions out there into the market. What we're looking at here are registration rates based on if a sticker was included in a package versus if in the control there was no sticker included. I think the net takeaway here is pretty clear of stickers, as we've been groomed to respond to them from the financial industry. They do work, but that's sort of the answer to the question that's a little bit uninteresting if we're in a test and learn kind of a headspace. I really look at where some of the biggest gaps are and where some of the smallest gaps are. So if we orient our attention up to the top right graph and where some of the stars are above the bars there, we're seeing that there is a huge improvement to adding a sticker in Massachusetts, I think in Nevada and in Indiana. Now, if I look over to my home state of Colorado, there really isn't a big bearing. And my takeaway there is we might want to park Nevada, Indiana, and Massachusetts to the side and say we're really comfortable with the performance levels there. We can now start testing something different in those states to see if there's additional opportunity. Colorado, we haven't cracked that nut yet. And maybe that's about the nature of the content on the sticker. Maybe it just doesn't help for whatever reason there, but the data is now talking to us about where the future work to optimize lives. It's really not in Boston, it's in Denver. That's where we want to spend more time to see if within this particular view, we can start better performing. And in some instances, there was an alternative sticker sent out, and we really saw that those perform better than sticker one did at all. So now you're just starting to look at, and I'm referencing those two on the left. We've got something QR code enabled. We've got something that is not QR code enabled, and we're seeing just where those performance variants are. Again, the flip side of the coin is how do we then start to make decisions about, okay, so what do we do next? And that's where the creativity comes into the test and learn kind of a process. I'm really curious now about iconography, about caregivers, in particular, when I look at the zip codes where we've got predominantly non-English speaking households, right? So looking at zip codes, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a bit, but if I can look at zip codes, I can also cross-reference those with publicly available data sets. I can look at something from the CDC, I can look at something from NIH, and I can understand what sort of the composition of that zip code is. And if I'm really underperforming in that zip code, and that zip code happens to be English as a second language predominantly, I know I've got some of these other tools at my disposal. Let's start to lower the grade reading level if we're going to be in English. Let's include a lot more iconography, or let's also reference that this is content or information that can be shared with a caregiver. That can be a really nice conduit to getting the actual member involved. One other on location and geography that I really key into is looking at the proximity of a member to some of the physical care locations that we're asking them to participate in. So let's say that's for an annual visit. I might want to look and map my my contracts and my network access and say, if I've got members 10 miles or more outside of a network physician that I can point them to, I might want to tune up the volume on the availability of telemedicine for them. I might have an in-home service that's willing to come to them because that's another partner that we've invested in. And these would be people that might really feel like that's a good service for them based on their proximity to accessing a physician. You might also do things like notify if there are extended hours in places where the utilization is really low. Just trying to crack that nut of why are we sort of hurting here? Why are we seeing less engagement? And then throwing hypotheses out by way of our correspondence, and the data is going to tell you what worked. If it was a big spike in telemedicine off of those letters versus the control, then we know that proximity was likely something that was causing their lack of engagement.